Hi, my name is Jane Collins, and I'm a training specialist for the Illinois Center for Transition and Work located at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Thank you for joining me in today's webinar, Creating a Vision for Meaningful Employment and Independence for Students with Significant Support Needs. Before we get started, I want to briefly share my background. I've worked in special education for 35 years before retiring in 2022, with the last 12 years as principal of a transition program for students with significant support needs. That experience shaped how I view the importance of preparing every student for meaningful work and greater independence. Now, through my role with the Illinois Center for Transition and Work, I'm excited to support other educators in doing the same. Today, we'll focus on how all students, regardless of their support needs, can learn, contribute, and achieve meaningful work when provided with the right mindset and individualized support. We'll dive into core beliefs and values like presuming competence, promoting dignity of risk, and recognizing employment as a fundamental right. I'll also highlight how the power of a unified vision can significantly strengthen a transition program. By the end of our time together, you'll walk away with actionable strategies to help empower change in your own work. Let's get started. The ICTW's focus is always on employment. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know by sharing that the percentage of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities in competitive integrated employment is significantly lower than the employment rate of people without disabilities. But 18% should be triggering outrage within our state, especially since research supports that individuals with significant disabilities can achieve employment through customized employment. Research also supports that students with paid work experiences in high school are more likely to become competitively employed after they exit the system. The question we should be asking ourselves is why so many continue to completely dismiss a group of individuals because they have been categorized as too severe for employment. We know that states who invest in employment first policies see better outcomes. It's time for Illinois to put action behind our words. It's time to start seeing better outcomes in Illinois, especially since we have been an employment first state since 2013. Let's take a look at core beliefs and values. By examining a few core educational beliefs, we'll begin to build a strong philosophical foundation for meaningful change. Together, we'll explore the presumption of competence, the dignity of risk, the belief that everyone can contribute, the idea that employment is a right, and how customized support creates opportunity. I challenge you to truly believe that every student possesses potential, regardless of their disability. Don't let negativity get in your way. Phrases such as, they aren't ready, there aren't any appropriate jobs, they will lose their benefits if they work, families aren't on board, I could go on and on. Negativity will only keep your students from reaching meaningful post-school outcomes. By presuming competence, we create opportunities for students instead of limiting them. This mindset promotes access, dignity, and high expectations. The truth is, limiting beliefs and low expectations, not disability, are the real barriers. Dignity of risk refers to the ability to make choices that may have negative consequences and to experience those consequences. Too often, out of good intentions, we shield those we care for from failure. But we must remember education is a process, not a product. Failure is not only inevitable, but also essential to learning. Only through failure can individuals truly discover their full potential. Pause and think about that. As special educators, we understand more than any other educator that participation is not perfection. If this is true, then why do we continue to fall short in applying this to the world of employment? Every student should be able to contribute unique strengths, interests, and values in the workplace as well. We know how to do this in the classroom. It's time to apply this to the workplace. Contribution can take the form of completing tasks, enhancing team morale, or even just consistently showing up. Let's begin to shift focus from productivity alone to purpose and presence and begin to open the door for everyone to be included. Let's remember that work is not only about earning, it's about belonging. Every individual has the right to pursue meaningful integrated employment. Disability must never be seen as a barrier to workforce participation. When employment opportunities are denied based on perceived limitations, we don't just block access, we deny both potential and equity. Employment is not a privilege, not a reward, it is a civil right. The Americans with Disabilities Act has been around since 1990. It's time to wake up and realize that work is a fundamental right. I like the term customized support because when seeking employment for individuals with significant support needs, success hinges on having the right support tailored to each person. Customized support isn't about doing more for someone, it's about doing what is meaningful, accessible, and effective for that individual. It recognizes that one size fits all approaches don't work. True equity means adjusting our strengths to align with their strengths, preferences, and needs. We must customize supports when we do this. We shift our mindset from asking, can they do this, to asking, what do they need to succeed? This simple shift changes everything. It moves us from doubt to possibility, from limitation to opportunity. Okay, it's time to move on to a discussion about unified vision. Let's analyze how a unified vision drives program success and ensures alignment among all stakeholders. Without it, programs risk fragmentation and confusion. But when we truly believe in the potential of all students, we begin to design programs that reflect that belief. A unified vision doesn't just guide programming, it builds stronger teams, empowers families, and deepens community partnerships. But let's be honest, this doesn't happen overnight. Developing a shared vision is a thoughtful, sometimes time consuming process. Once a team agrees on core values or responsibilities, the next step is critical in translating those values into observable, measurable actions. These are the behaviors and practices that show how the vision comes alive in our daily work. Developing a shared philosophy is a concrete and powerful way to unify a building, program, or classroom. Yet, too often, these conversations are skipped. It's assumed that everyone holds the same beliefs about working with individuals with disabilities, but we should never make assumptions. Taking the time to define a shared philosophy helps teams clarify what they value, what they're collectively working toward. It opens the door for honest dialogue, alignment, and intentional practice. Think of a shared philosophy not as a description of where things are, but as a statement of aspirations, what we are striving to become together. A shared philosophy statement should reflect the core beliefs and values guiding the learning environment. Later in this presentation, we'll revisit these beliefs and explore how to use them to create a philosophy statement tailored to an individual classroom, building, or program. But for now, let's shift our focus to a few foundational principles that must be present in every learning space: inclusivity and respect. We know that when teaching a diverse group of students, it is important to consider their identities, backgrounds, and cultures. But every now and then, it's worth pausing to really reflect on why this matters. Knowing our students, their stories, their values, and experiences helps us build stronger connections and better understand what truly matters to them. And when we take the time to do that, we're in a far better position to support them in reaching their transition goals. Always remember to use a person first, respectful language. Say student with a disability. Always presume competence. All students can learn and contribute meaningfully, even if communication or support looks different. Always adapt materials and methods. Use multiple means of representation, such as visuals, hands on technology. Always encourage peer to peer support, peer buddies, and shared projects. I could go on, but most importantly, always reflect on your biases. Being open to learning and correcting unintentional assumptions or practices that might marginalize students. I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few don'ts. Don't speak about students without them. Don't tolerate disrespectful language. Don't assume that one size fits all. And don't ignore the student's voice. Create a space for student led collaboration, choice making, and peer interaction. Student centered learning is a term being used everywhere these days, but do your staff really understand what it means? Once clearly communicated, academic and behavioral norms are established to support a climate that promotes a positive, safe, orderly, and inclusive learning environment. This educational approach shifts the focus from what the teacher does to what the student experiences, needs, and contributes. It emphasizes active participation, personalized learning, and the development of lifelong learning skills. Through collaboration, students receive consistent and individualized support. When team members work together, academic, social, and vocational goals become aligned with each student's unique strengths and needs. Unfortunately, it has become standard practice to fade out support services as students grow older. But I would challenge that thinking. In fact, the transition years are when we need to collaborate more than ever. This is the now or never stage in education. We know from research the number one predictor of post school success is that students who have paid work experiences in high school are more likely to achieve competitive, integrated employment after they exit the system. That's why now more than ever, we must bring the entire team to the table, educators, families, related service providers, and community partners to ensure that each student reaches their fullest potential. This leads beautifully into high expectations. Having high expectations is essential for fostering growth and independence and self determination. Again, research supports the idea that students who are expected to engage in meaningful work, social interactions, and decision making are more likely to succeed in employment and independent living. I'm not suggesting that we throw our students into the bullpen and walk away. Ensuring safety and support for our students in work settings requires a thoughtful balance of structure, independence, and individualized accommodations. But let's be clear, providing safety and support should never come at the expense of a student's independence. When done well, students build both confidence and competence, all while maintaining safeguards that help them succeed. Just in case you're not aware of the term, evidence based practices, EBPs, are instructional interventions that have been proven effective through rigorous research. For students with significant disabilities, EBPs, such as task analysis, systematic instruction, positive behavior interventions, and visual supports, help promote learning, independence, and successful transitions. And lastly, embracing a lifelong learning philosophy in the classroom is essential. It fosters growth, adaptability, and independence for life beyond school. When we instill this mindset, students leave the classroom equipped with the skills, confidence, and resilience they need to keep growing, keep learning, and keep moving forward, no matter where life takes them. Empowering change, I want you to think about this as a means of stepping into possibility. I have provided numerous staff development opportunities throughout my career. However, it has been during my time as a training specialist for the Illinois Center for Transition and Work that I have had the unique opportunity to work with multiple schools across Illinois. This role has allowed me to broaden my impact, support diverse teams, and help shape transition practices on a statewide level. Staff development is essential because it equips educators with the skills, knowledge, and mindset to meet the evolving needs of their students, especially in diverse and inclusive classrooms that focus on the needs of students with significant support needs. When teachers grow, students benefit. Staff development that focuses on shared philosophy, dignity of risk, and inclusivity and respect is powerful and far reaching. When staff align around a shared philosophy, they develop cohesive expectations for students and each other. They begin to work from a common language and are more consistent in applying inclusive practices and transition supports. One thing all these schools share is the need for staff unity. One powerful way to build that unity is by developing a shared philosophy that can be applied school-wide, a clear collective statement that aligns the entire team around common values and a unified purpose. As mentioned earlier, when I provide this training, I begin with an example set of core beliefs. You really can't go wrong with these: inclusivity and respect, student centered learning, collaboration, high expectations, safety and support, use of evidence based practices, and lifelong learning. When going through these, I take the time to walk through each one with staff, just as I did with you earlier in this presentation. The key difference in a live session is that participants write down their own ideas, then share and discuss them in small groups at various tables. Once each group has the time to reflect and talk, we bring everyone together to share out. And I'll be honest, you may be surprised and inspired by the insights that emerge. The next step is to share an example of a philosophy statement. This helps participants start envisioning the kind of unified message they want to create and carry forward across their school program. The example I like to use comes from an article written by Christy Carnahan and others. It can be found in the references and resources link for this webinar. The statement has two parts. On this screen, the first part discusses what staff believe in and are committed to. I have the words believe, we believe in, and are committed to on one side of the index card, and participants are asked to write down their thoughts on the other side. I encourage them to write the very first thing that comes to mind. These are the beliefs and commitments the team agreed upon. Creating a structured learning environment that enhances education by using evidence-based practice and collaborative practice throughout the building, fostering and supporting student independence across all areas and ages, embedded visual and physical supports throughout the school building to aid each student's educational, vocational, and functional development. Allowing for all communication to be accepted emphasizes supporting each other's ability to express their wants and needs and to ensure those needs are met. Assume the abilities of all students and seek ways for them to achieve their highest potential. And lastly, treat students with respect and foster a sense of dignity. The second part of the philosophy statement is a bit more complicated. How are staff going to hold each other accountable to maintain these beliefs? Again, written on one side of the index card are the words to maintain these beliefs. We will maintain an environment conducive to learning by, and participants are asked to write down their thoughts on the other side. Here are some of the ideas that a team came up with. arriving on time and preparing all materials for the day, refraining from adult conversation in front of students during the day, using a minimal and direct language approach. Focus on student learning and broaden our language as students demonstrate readiness. Being consistent in our management of academics and behavior. We will be firm and direct while providing meaningful praise. Representing our program positively, aligning our thoughts, actions, and words as a team. Staff are required to sign the statement. The completed statement is posted throughout the building as a reminder to the vision. To make this work, it can't just be a flyer on a wall. It is encouraged to be reviewed annually as a building to reinforce the mindset of the building. Another meaningful staff development opportunity that can shift mindsets is exploring the concept of dignity of risk. This isn't always a comfortable conversation because it calls on us to do something that can feel counterintuitive, provide opportunities where our students might fail. But here's the truth. Unless we allow students to make real choices, even ones with the potential for negative outcomes, and unless we let them experience and remember those outcomes, how will they ever truly learn something new? It's what creates deep, meaningful, lasting learning, not something to avoid, but something to embrace. The next few slides are taken directly from training sessions I've led. I often encourage staff to print these slides as a visual reminder, anchoring strategies to aim for in daily practice. Each one offers strong conversation starters for staff development. Let's take a look at this slide in particular. First, people must be allowed to make their own choices, even if those choices aren't the safest or what we would personally select. Next, let's talk about overprotection. While often well-intentioned, overprotection doesn't just slow progress, it can become a form of harm. It may lead to learned helplessness, reduced determination, fewer authentic life experiences. Letting individuals take risks, even those that may feel uncomfortable to parents or professionals, is essential for growth. Risk-taking is a natural and necessary part of learning. When we shield someone too much, we limit their development, independence, and confidence. That's why it's so important that we as educators step outside our comfort zones too. We must be willing to try new approaches that promote autonomy. I'll share a few ideas on where to start a little later on, but I want to leave you with this for now. Providing choices is not just a strategy, it's a statement. It says, I believe in your ability to decide. I expect you to grow. And that is the foundation of self-determination and high expectations. It's important to challenge staff to think differently. This slide has 6 powerful questions designed to spark reflection and conversation. These questions can truly shift mindsets when we pause to sit with them. Take a moment to consider, what if you were never allowed to make a mistake? What if you did a task wrong and were never given a chance to do it again? What if you were treated like a child? You were never given a chance to do well at something. The job you did was not useful. What if the only risky thing you could do was act out? These questions aren't just hypothetical. For many students with significant disabilities, this is their daily reality. When we truly reflect on these questions, it becomes clear. We must create environments where dignity, autonomy, and real opportunities to grow are the norm, not the exception. At this point in the training, I like to invite staff to turn to a partner or small group and brainstorm. Where can we start? What are the real tangible opportunities we already have to support self-determination and dignity of risk in our settings? To guide that conversation, I share this example from Bumble and Worth, which outlines everyday places where we can start. These are not hypothetical or idealistic. They are available in every educational classroom. Classroom activities, embedded choice, challenge, and real ownership. Relationships foster mutual respect, listen deeply, and presume competence. IEP meetings involve the student meaningfully, not just symbolically. Community-based experiences step outside the school walls and into real life. Work-based learning supports risk-taking, exploration, and reflection. Daily choices recognize and honor even the smallest decisions as steps towards independence. These aren't extras, they're entry points. I would also take a few minutes to brainstorm how each of these areas might look like participants' classrooms and programs. This slide invites us to take a closer look at assessing risk across multiple areas. We do this by examining several key dimensions of each setting or activity. The context. Where is the activity taking place, excuse me? What's the environment like? Is it structured or natural, familiar or new? Choice. What real choices can the student make during the activity? Are they meaningful or superficial? Supports and services. What supports are already in place to help the student participate, and what additional support might be needed to move toward greater independence? Consequences. Does the activity include the potential for natural consequences or risk? If so, to what extent? And finally, big questions, the ones that help us reflect on our practice. If risk is limited, is it truly for the student's benefit or is it to keep others comfortable? How can we shift toward creating authentic risk opportunities where students can take ownership and experience genuine autonomy? This final slide brings it all together. Using the example of work-based learning, Bumble and Worth break down the activity across 4 levels of risk: manufactured risk, programmed risk, managed risk, authentic risk. Across the top, you'll see these categories laid out in columns. Down the side, we revisit the dimensions we've already discussed. By laying it out this way, we can really see the differences between creating the illusion of risk and providing the space for authentic growth. This tool can be used for team reflection and planning. It helps us recognize where we might be unintentionally limiting opportunities and where we can start to shift towards promoting dignity of risk in meaningful, practical ways. As mentioned at the beginning of this last section, the best way to empower change is through staff development activities. We discuss philosophy statements and dignity of risk, and that leaves us with some inclusivity and respect activities. Mindset minute activities build empathy and align practices with dignity of risk. During my 12 years as a principal, I included a weekly quote along with my staff notes each week. The quote reflected something relevant happening in the building, also in the community or the world. During my last year, I printed each quote and posted it on a bulletin board located in a main common area. The board was filled by the end of the year. Transition to work vision boards unify expectations and focus on possibilities. Examples may include sections such as My Dream Job, with pictures of jobs they're interested in, Things I Like to Do, with icons or photos, Skills I Have, with words or pictures. Support I need with visuals like headphones, checklists, or even a job coach. And places I want to work with logos of businesses. Mirror moments help us replace assumptions with empathy and compliance with dignity. Ask staff to pause and reflect. If you had the same abilities and support needs as this student, how would you want to be supported? How would you want to be spoken to? How would you want others to plan for you? These are the questions that shift perspective from teaching to someone to partnering with someone. These activities are designed to build community, promote mindset shifts, and embed dignity into everyday practice. Here are a few more that have worked well in real world settings. Booker Podcast Club hosts voluntary before or after school clubs where staff choose and discuss relevant books or podcasts. During COVID, I selected the Energy Bus by John Gordon to help unite our staff and maintain focus during a time of great uncertainty. It became a shared language of optimism and resilience. Shift Happens Wall. Create an ongoing staff bulletin board where team members can post success stories, mindset shifts, and aha moments. This simple practice fosters collective celebration and contributes to a visual, shared culture of growth. Language check activities. Have staff review common phrases used in IEPs, classrooms, and meetings. Then work together to rewrite these phrases using strength-based empowering language. These activities reinforce a critical point. The words we use shape the beliefs we hold and the expectations we set. These small, intentional practices help embed inclusivity and respect into the culture of a school, not just in policy, but in everyday behavior. All right, finally, let's bring it all together. It is my hope that this presentation challenged outdated assumptions about students with significant support needs and their ability to participate meaningfully in the world of work and in life. I hope it reinforced the belief that all students can learn, contribute, and achieve meaningful employment when supported by the right mindset, individualized strategies, and inclusive opportunities. Through our time together, we explored core values such as presuming competence, promoting dignity of risk, and also recognizing employment as a right, not a reward. We also emphasized the power of a unified vision and shared philosophy across educators, families, and community partners as essential ingredients in building strong, effective transition programs. And most importantly, I hope each of you leaves today with actionable strategies to apply in your own settings, a renewed sense of purpose, and a commitment to driving meaningful support for all students, especially those with the most significant support needs. Again, I thank you for being part of this important conversation.